This is gonna be a spicy one. How solo leveling perfected what SAO tried to do. What did Sword Art Online try to do? Have a show where the premise is if you die in a video game, you die in real life. What does solo leveling do that SAO can't do or it fails to do? The video game aspect? I don't really know, but hey, let's check out the video.
Sword Art Online was supposed to be the story about someone becoming the strongest player in a game-like world. Instead, we got a Gary Stu protagonist who is instantly good at everything. Solo leveling took the same basic...
Was he instantly good at everything? Kinda, because he was a beater. A beta tester who is a cheater because they got an early head start. Therefore, Kirito was pretty much OP right off the bat.
Solo leveling took the same basic concept but actually delivered on the promise that SAO failed to fulfill. Let's be real, both series start with...
I don't think SAO promised anything. You know what I mean? Like, Sword Art Online did not go out and say, listen, we're going to have the main character have such level steady progression that the power scaling makes sense in a video game, context, right? I feel like SAO from the beginning was, we got this crazy, gimmick that if you die in a video game, you die in real life. And we're going to have an MC who is so edgy. We're going to have a young Kirito who is so edgy and powerful that he gets all the bitches, and you want to self-insert. So I just feel like this promise is just kind of made up, but solo leveling absolutely does a better steady progression of power, and it feels like it's deserved and earned. That's why we kind of root for Sung Jin-woo whenever he's, attempting to beat bigger things. While in SAO, I don't really feel that kind of threat. I don't feel any sort of like difficulty or stake because I know that Kirito will overcome it eventually.
Similar premises. A somewhat average guy gets thrown into a life or death situation where game mechanics suddenly become reality. But while Kirito is magically amazing at everything from the start, Jinwoo begins as the weakest hunter in...
I wouldn't say magically, right? Because again, he's like a beater. How much does that beta playthrough really makes him that OP though? Is there anything else that made him really more OP? He's just a sweaty gamer. He had beta access. He had an early lead, and he become really strong. That's pretty much about it.
In existence. He's literally called the world's weakest hunter, and the series means it. He doesn't have hidden talents, special abilities, or even basic combat skills. He survives purely by running away and hiding behind other hunters. This is where solo leveling's genius kicks in. Instead of instantly making Jinwoo overpowered, the series forces him to earn every single bit of power. His early fights aren't epic battles. They're desperate struggles against the weakest monsters imaginable.
This is pretty epic. The Kasuga fight was pretty damn epic, but in hindsight now, obviously the power scaling, Kasuga was like a C rank threat, obviously not that important, right? So the fights were always epic, to me at least, and Sung Jin-woo struggling to basically overcome his limitations and grow steadily definitely creates this like formula, this premise that we can all get on board of, hey, these powers feel deserved. He's not just like being OP out of nowhere. And I actually do care about the fights, where sometimes in SA or even other shows where the main character gets their powers immediately and they're just super powered, it's not really that fun unless you really lean into the comedy aspect of it. Because if you're just OP right away with no like challenge and it doesn't seem like earned, I don't give a fuck. The fights are also just like non-threatening, so I don't care.
Monsters imaginable. He nearly dies fighting basic creatures that any other hunter could handle easily. The series takes the getting stronger part seriously, something SAO completely skipped over. But it's not just about the power progression. Solo leveling actually understands what makes game mechanics interesting. In SAO, levels and stats are basically just numbers that make Kirito look cool. In solo level...
Do we even have numbers and stats? Because at some point, and SAO has many different parts, but it just became at the very end, the power of willpower. And I kind of fuck with that. I genuinely do fuck with Kirito. Like it's like how much resolve and willpower do you have, and that will determine if you can overcome the odds or not. It's a very ambiguous power scaling system. It's really bullshit, but I still love it. From the beginning, SAO to me felt like Kirito just like flexing on girls and just getting girls to me, right? Is there like progression of, yeah, there is like beating floor bosses, but I feel like the focus of SAO was always about like the challenges of staying in a game where you're going to die if you actually die. Therefore, you're bonding with others, and his like struggle of what's the word? Being the Black Swordsman. He's so traumatized because his friends died, the Black Cat Guild or something. That's why he like tries to push people away. And then Asuna shows up, and it just kind of like low key. It's like a therapy session if you think about it. Kirito is like this super powerful person who has a lot of struggles mentally because of the trauma that he's faced. So, he just goes around collecting a harem that tries to like appease him. I feel like these two shows are fundamentally different in what they're trying to accomplish. But I get the premise of, the earned power, the earned strength being a lot more palpable and easier for us to root on compared to, I guess, let's say, Kirito just basically just overpowering everything.
Leveling, every stat point matters. Every skill has clear limitations. When Jinwoo gets a new ability, we understand exactly what it does, what its weaknesses are, and why it matters for his growth. The system feels real because it has actual rules that even the protagonist has to follow. The Shadow Army mechanic perfectly demonstrates this difference. At first glance, it might seem similar to Kirito collecting powerful allies, but Jinwoo's Shadow Soldiers...
Does Kirito collect powerful allies, though? I don't want to shit on, let's say Klein, Rayyl. Asuna's pretty powerful. But like Pina, and not even Pina, what's her name? Fucking, I forgot their names. It's been a while. Or like Lisbeth and shit. Like they're not really powerful allies. So Kirito is the powerful ally. Kirito is the OP motherfucker that just goes out and saves everybody.
Come with clear limitations. They can only be as strong as they were in life. They require constant maintenance of his mana, and he has to actually defeat them first. Compare this to Kirito just befriending whoever he needs at the moment, and you see how solo leveling creates actual stakes and limitations.
Absolutely agreed. Actual stakes and limitations. You do feel some stakes and limitations in SAO though. Like the stakes and limitations here being like, like the fights actually seems to make sense. Like Jinwoo will beat it, but it's such a struggle. Usually Kirito just fucking runs it down mid and just kind of just dominates. But there are some struggles and limitations too that exist, I guess later on in season 4, where he literally becomes a wheelchair. Like SAO became really amazing when the author decided to remove Kirito and focus on the side characters. I think that's why Project Alicization is so amazing. You know what I mean? Like in season 3, Kirito existed, but he was kind of like support role for Yu-Gi-Oh, right? The story was really centered around Yu-Gi-Oh and Alice and what they're doing. Kirito kind of just like exists there, kind of like observing stuff and sometimes clutches here and there. But I feel like removing Kirito was one of the best things that the author did to really make SAO go to that next level compared to, let's say, season 1 and season 2, where it's just the Kirito show, baby.
Handle relationships shows this fundamental difference. Kirito collects a harem of girls who instantly fall for him because he's just so amazing. Jinwoo's relationships develop naturally through the story. Characters like...
Well... How did Song-yi fall for Jinwoo? Because he was so cool in the Red Gate. How did Kirito rizz up Silica? Because he's just so cool in that episode. I feel like both of these scenes, like, what did Jinwoo do fundamentally different that was so much more, like, impactful when he's rizzing up the ladies, like Song-yi, compared to Silica? Isn't it both just main character being cool and just mocking on people, flexing, and the girls being like, oh my god, this guy's so cool, I want to be with him?
Develop naturally through the story. Characters like Cha Hai-in don't instantly worship him, they recognize his growth over time. The series earns these developments.
Really? I feel like the term here is worship. I feel like from the beginning, Cha Hai-in has kind of been down bad for Jinwoo, right? Like, what happens when she first meets him? She sniffs him. She's like, and then she's like, I need to stalk this guy. What about the other characters? Does Asuna fall in love with him immediately? Not really. There's some time build up, right? Did Silica fall in love with Kirito immediately? It was more like a big bro figure. Lisbeth, I think, fell in love with Kirito pretty easily in the span of one episode. I don't know. I feel like the girls definitely do fall for Kirito very easily, but is it so different in solo leveling? Is it so significantly different? I don't know.
instead of just handing them to the protagonist. The power scaling in solo leveling is another massive improvement. SAO constantly had to create artificial challenges for Kirito because he was too powerful from the start. Solo leveling maintains tension by clearly establishing its power hierarchy. We always know exactly where Jinwoo stands.
Jesus Christ. Necromancer. These are more the traps. What the fuck is this art? He looks like an admiral from One Piece. That neck is insane.
Compared to other hunters, and his progress up this hierarchy feels earned. When he finally surpasses an S-rank hunter, it's a genuine achievement because we've seen every step it took to get there.
I absolutely agree. Everything does feel earned, and that's why it's so much easier to just like enjoy the fights more and more. At some point, it might get, you know, muddied. You know, the more the story progresses, the power scaling will get messy. That's just like an inevitable thing. I feel like there's no way around it. But so far, solo leveling has done a wonderful job. But plenty of shows where the powers are given to the character immediately and they're just dominate everything. That shit gets boring so quick. And when everything gets boring that quick, there's two things you need to be able to do. You better make sure that like there's a big comedy point to it. Like in Evanston Shadow or One Punch Man, right? There's a huge comedic aspect to it where it's just more funny because of the OP powers. And you need to also work on the side characters. Focus on making compelling side supporting characters and have the story kind of be, you know, told through the perspective so that the threats kind of like, you can feel the threats through them and then have the OP dude show up and just clear everything. Or else you just kind of have every fight that just gets dominated by the main character where it's just like, all right, new dude showed up, but I don't really care because I know that the Black Swordsman's is going to win.
The series also perfects the game-like interface that SAO introduced. Instead of just using it for cool visuals,
Hey, this is from Sister Leveling. Gyat Assassin.
Visuals. Solo leveling integrates the system into the actual storytelling. Status windows provide crucial information, quest notifications create genuine tension, and level ups feel significant because we understand exactly what they mean for Jinwoo's capabilities. But perhaps the biggest improvement is how solo leveling handles its protagonist's growth mindset. Kirito succeeds because he's special. Jinwoo succeeds because he's methodical.
Kirito succeeds because he's special. Yeah, he's the chosen one. He's the author's main character. Go back.
For Jinwoo's capabilities. But perhaps the biggest improvement is how solo leveling handles its protagonist's growth mindset. Kirito succeeds because he's special.
Kirito succeeds the growth mindset. The growth mindset, I think, happens often for like for the sake of his friends, right? He fights for his friends. There's like a pretty deep moment actually in GGO, Gun Gale Online, in a cave with Shinon when they're talking about their traumas and Shinon's like, how can I be strong like you? And Kirito's like, I'm not strong, but that's why I'm strong. Remember that episode where he was crying and the nurse was like consoling him because, you know, of the whole like murder stuff and he's like, he couldn't handle it all. Like Kirito, I think the strength, the growth mindset, it all derives from him wanting to protect others, the harem, the friends that he's formed, right? And to move forward. There's nothing wrong with that. Jinwoo, his growth mindset comes from saving mom. It's like trying to become stronger and stronger because obviously the end game right now for us, not the end game, but the immediate goal is farm the match required, get strong enough to farm the match required to have the elixir happen. I feel like the growth mindset argument, I'm not getting it.
Perhaps the biggest improvement is how solo leveling handles its protagonist's growth mindset. Kirito succeeds because he's special. Jinwoo succeeds because he's methodical.
Jinwoo is also special though. Bro has literally been given the opportunity of a lifetime through the double dungeon in episode 1, the courage of the weak to become the Shadow Monarch. How could you not call that special? He definitely struggled way harder. But he is very special. Like, he's an average person who got the opportunity of a lifetime and struggled his ass off to earn it. But it's not like he's not special.
Carefully plans his battles, strategically chooses which monsters to fight, and makes calculated decisions about how to use his resources. The series shows us exactly how someone would actually need to think and act to become powerful in a system-based world. The dungeon breaks and solo leveling serve a similar but much...
Did SAO really... Did Jim... How much methodical fighting mechanics are really put into place? Like, is he a master strategist? Is he going on to basically just rule the board by playing chess, by methodically moving pieces around? He's just flexing. He just says, all right, boys, let's fucking go get it. And we just fuck shit up. I don't really understand this point. Like, you could argue that Kirito also had to figure out how to specifically fight in GGO because he ain't shooting guns, but he had to use the lightsaber, and he's a black swordsman, so he can use his swords in a really creative, unique way. And, you know, I feel like GGO also was really lining up, you know, the difference in different types of combat and, you know, how like different stats mattered more. And they really went in depth in there too. I don't really understand about the methodical part here.
Actually need to think and act to become powerful in a system-based world. The dungeon breaks in solo leveling serve a similar but much more effective purpose than SAO's floor clearing. Instead of just being settings for Kirito to show off, dungeons and solo leveling are genuine challenges that require strategy, preparation, and careful resource management.
You could say the same thing about the SAO floor bosses. They're peeking in, trying to figure out, they're doing a little bit of scouting to see, okay, what's this? You know, how are we going to get over this? Like, even in like episode 1 or 2, right? Like the first floor of clearing, there was so much like strategy involved, like a whole raid being, you know, achieved. Remember that when Kirito became the Black Swordsman?
Preparation and careful resource management. When Jinwoo enters a high-ranked dungeon, there's actual tension because we understand the risks and limitations he's working with. Solo leveling even...
Yeah, I agree with that. For SAO, I know that Kirito is just somehow gonna pull it off. But at this point, I also know that Jinwoo is just gonna pull it off. Like, in season 1, for sure, it was like, oh fuck, how is this guy gonna do it? We're at that point in season 2 where I just feel like Jinwoo will just... He's at that stage to just flex. You know what I mean? Early game solo leveling season 1, I agree with this take. The stakes, the difficulties, it's just like, oh shit, how is he gonna overcome this? I think that Kasaka fight was like the main part where until that point I was like, oh, up until that point, right? Even that fight was like, how is he gonna do this? And he overcame it. After that, it's like, yo, this guy is really, really OP now. And now he's just rolling everybody. But here's the thing. I'm perfectly fine with him rolling everybody. I don't just like, I don't go out and say, oh, this is bullshit, because I know what it took to get there. While again, some other shows, right? Some of the isekais that we're watching where the power's given immediately, when they're rolling everybody immediately, it just feels so undeserved that I just don't care and I tune out. That's the difference.
Manages to handle the stuck-in-a-game world concept better, despite not actually being about a game. By making its system mechanics part of reality rather than a virtual world, it creates more interesting questions about how such power changes society. The series explores how the existence of hunters affects the world economy, international relations, and social structures depth that SAO never achieved, despite literally being about a virtual world-changing society.
That is objectively wrong. Bro, SAO goes on to go, like, the level of science fiction, artificial intelligence, AGI, that's been shown in season 3, season 4, the impact of, like, the whole arms, like, the whole Project Alicization is an arms race. There's different nations getting involved due to, you know, Zacido going crazy and, you know, people having simulations to, you know, create these, like, AI, like, war robots, and like the impact of that. There's an entire episode dedicated towards the profound impacts that, you know, Alice had on the world. Like, he showed clips from season 3 and 4 though. That's the thing. He may not have seen it. Yeah, also there's like Ogma, there's like AR and VR. Like, the way that SAO handles the technology, relates it to like modern society and like future progression is so profound. I feel like this is such an objectively wrong take to have. Solo leveling absolutely does perhaps an even better job at portraying how the, you know, the dungeons, the whole guild system, the world economy, there's even like, you know, 2 different sort of like resources in there where there's like, you know, one's used for like sustainable like resource, like what's it called? Like a different resource to like power stuff, right? While there's also like, you know, different mats and you can create stuff and sell, and there's a huge industry, like a market placed on it. Like, I love it. Like, solo leveling absolutely does that fine. But SAO, bro, the way that it handles like science fiction, the future of AI, AR, VR technology? Nah, this ain't it.
What solo leveling ultimately proves is that you can take SAO's basic concept, a normal person becoming extraordinary through system-based power progression, and turn it into something genuinely compelling, not by making your protagonist instantly overpowered, but by forcing them to earn their power through smart decisions, careful planning, and genuine struggle. It shows that the power fantasy genre doesn't need to sacrifice good storytelling for cool moments. The irony is that by making its protagonist work harder for his power, solo leveling actually created more satisfying power fantasy fulfillment than SAO ever managed, because when Jinwoo finally becomes overwhelmingly powerful, we feel like he earned it.
Yes, and we're down for it, right? Everyone is popping off and down for it because he earned it. That's the one thing that I think like I agree with, right? I don't know about the other parts of SAO. I don't know if you actually watched all of SAO, but there's a lot of things that I think is just objectively wrong. Specifically about, you know, how SAO is just like a flat world where I guess like, you know, the world does not matter due to the video game system, but it clearly does. But in terms of like the power scaling, right? In terms of how Kirito was originally overpowered, and there's a good reason. There is a good reason of why Kirito is strong. It's just that the progression stuff was skipped. The beta testing, all that bullshit, bro, was not shown in the anime. So immediately you're shown a Kirito who is so overpowered that you don't really feel like he deserves any of it, right? In solo leveling, you saw exactly what was needed to get there. Season 1 was basically that. It was an amazing premise and a setup. And therefore, when he's rolling people over, we're all there saying, ooh, aura, let's fucking go. When Kirito does it, we're like, that's the Black Swordsman. What do you expect? Please go check out Rayyl's channel. Here's the link to his channel. Please go give the video a like if you did. Check out his channel for the other content. I don't know what he makes, but that's pretty much it. One thing I like from this video, the voice. Is this an AI voice? I feel like this video, the audio quality was so crisp. It's a very like it's nice to hear the narration through that voice, but the tempo and the pitch was so like perfect. You know what I mean? Like there was no hesitation. Every word pronunciated perfectly. The tempo, the cadence. It's AI. It's gotta be AI voice, right? I think it is. Anyways, go check their channel out. See you next time.